My name is Robert Callahan. I'm 64 years old, a retired Army Ranger, and I once spent 3 years operating in places most Americans will never find on a map. I survived ambushes, betrayals, and 2 IED blasts that should have killed me. Nothing, not a single moment in uniform, prepared me for what happened on a Thursday morning in rural Tennessee when I looked out my kitchen window and saw strangers walking through my yard with numbered bidding paddles. I was still holding my coffee. The farm had belonged to my parents since 1961. 60 acres of Tennessee soil, a working barn, 2 hay fields, and a farmhouse that smelled like pine wood and history. My father built the back porch with his own hands. My mother planted rose bushes along the fence line that still bloom every April. Every fence post, every creak in those floorboards, they're mine in a way no deed could fully explain. I'd retired 18 months earlier after 32 years of service. The plan was simple. Come home, fix the place up, and finally live the quiet life I'd earned. What I didn't know was that while I was busy serving overseas, my cousin Gerald had been quietly working a different plan entirely. The first truck pulled into the gravel driveway at 8:15 a.m. Then another. Then 4 more. I stepped onto the porch. A woman in a blazer was already photographing my barn. A man in a polo shirt was walking the perimeter of the south field, speaking into his phone. I counted 11 strangers on my property before I even got my boots on. "Excuse me." I walked down the porch steps. "Can somebody tell me what's going on here?" A man carrying a clipboard looked up. "Sir, we're here for the estate auction. Mitchell Callahan property." He said it the way you'd announce a dentist appointment. Casual. Routine. I felt the blood drain from my face. "The what?" He pointed toward the road. "Sign's been up since yesterday." I turned. A large green sign stood beside my mailbox. Estate auction. Callahan property. Open to public. For a moment, I just stood there. 32 years in the Army. I had stared down situations that would make most men's hands shake. But standing on my own lawn, reading that sign, I felt something I hadn't felt since my first deployment. Completely blindsided. Then I saw Gerald. He climbed out of a silver pickup wearing pressed khakis and a satisfied smile, the kind of smile that told me he'd been rehearsing this moment. "Bobby." He spread his arms like we were at a family reunion. "Glad you're up." "Gerald." I kept my voice level. "You've got 30 seconds to explain this before I call the sheriff." He folded his arms. "The family decided it was time to liquidate the estate. We voted. I'm the estate, not according to the updated paperwork." He reached into a folder and pulled out documents I'd never seen before. Transfer of ownership. Signed. Dated. Notarized. Or so it appeared. I called my attorney immediately. Voicemail. Called again. Nothing. Around me, an auctioneer was setting up a microphone stand next to my father's tractor. A woman was examining my mother's garden tools like she was browsing a flea market. Someone asked Gerald if the weather vane on the barn was included in the sale. By 10:30, the auction had officially begun. I stood in my own front yard in my old field jacket, the one with my unit's patch still stitched above the chest pocket, watching strangers bid on my life. Then the black SUVs arrived. 4 of them, rolling slow down the gravel road. Private security. 6 men stepped out, professional and deliberate in the way only former military men move. Gerald had clearly spent money on this. He pointed in my direction. "That's the one causing problems. Remove him from the property." The team leader, broad-shouldered, mid-40s, nodded and walked toward me. He got within 10 feet before he stopped. His eyes locked onto my jacket, more specifically onto the patch. The color left his face. He stood perfectly still for 3 full seconds. Then, quietly, he said, "Sir, are you Robert Callahan?" The yard had gone quiet around us. "Yes," I said. He took 1 step back. Then he grabbed his radio and said 2 words that stopped everything cold. "Stand down." Every member of his team froze. The auctioneer stopped mid-sentence. Gerald's smile disappeared for the first time all morning. "What are you doing?" Gerald snapped. "I hired you." The team leader didn't even look at him. He looked at me. "Sir, I need to speak with you privately." We stepped away from the crowd. "What branch?" I asked first. "Marines," he said. "You, Rangers." He exhaled slowly. I heard your name during training. Instructors used to talk about recovery operations, certain operators who never got mentioned in official reports. I shook my head. Stories grow after retirement. Maybe, he said quietly, but some reputations don't come from stories. He turned to his team, then to Gerald. Mr. Callahan is present on this property. You told us it was vacant. That changes everything. Gerald exploded. I'll sue your company into the ground. The leader's voice never rose. That's your right. But we're done here. Watching 6 armed professionals refuse a paying client's direct order because of a patch on a retired soldier's jacket. I won't pretend that didn't mean something to me. What followed wasn't a movie moment. It was paperwork, phone calls, and 3 weeks of grinding legal work. My attorney finally called back that afternoon. By evening, she'd identified something serious. The transfer documents carried a forged signature, my father's name, written after his death. Gerald had also manipulated 2 elderly aunts into signing documents they believed were tax forms. County investigators got involved within days. The deeper they dug, the worse it looked. Gerald hadn't just targeted my property. He'd been quietly pulling money from elderly relatives for years. Small amounts. Patient. Calculated. The court hearing took 6 weeks. A forensic handwriting expert testified. Financial records were subpoenaed. Witnesses came forward, relatives who'd been deceived, not conspirators. The judge voided every fraudulent transfer. The farm was mine. It always had been. But the moment that changed me most didn't happen in a courtroom. It happened 2 months later when I visited Gerald at his house. He was sitting alone on his back porch, looking older than his years. The confidence was gone. What remained was a tired old man who'd spent years calculating angles and had finally run out of room to run. I don't expect anything from you, he said. Good, I told him. Because I'm not here to give you absolution. I paused. I'm here because carrying anger is its own kind of weight. And I've carried enough heavy things in my life. He didn't respond. He didn't need to. The following spring, I converted the old equipment barn into a gathering space. Veterans, seniors, neighbors, anyone who needed somewhere to sit, talk, and remember they weren't alone. On the first weekend we opened, a 78-year-old Korean War veteran sat across from a 26-year-old just back from his second overseas tour. They talked for 3 hours. That was the moment I understood something my father tried to tell me years ago, something I was too young and too busy to hear. The land matters, but what you build on it matters more. Property can be stolen. Titles can be forged. Family can fail you in ways you never saw coming. But the one thing nobody can falsify, manipulate, or auction off is who you are when everything else is on the line. That's the only inheritance worth protecting.